This show is produced in conjunction with Blazing Caribou Studios and Diamond Club. You can check out this and other cool podcasts in the Blazing Caribou family by heading over to blazingcariboustudios.com.
Beg the kids of the windy queen.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Black Mirror Reflections. I'm your host this season, Kari Sims, and I'm here joined, as always, with my co-hosts, Jackie Hearn and Stacy Baldwin. How are you guys?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good.
I'm doing much better this week.
Are ya?
Bummer.
Oh, even after all the crap that's going on in Europe right now? Jeez.
Yeah.
Between that and Pulse, I mean, what a crazy couple of weeks. Ugh. Horrible.
My heart goes out to those people in Orlando, and at the very end, I want to plug a site that can go to help people.
Absolutely. We should definitely do that. Well, today on Black Mirror Reflections, we discuss Season 1, Episode 3, The Entire History of You. Every episode of Black Mirror so far has nudged uncomfortably close to our reality, giving us a glimpse of a world populated with technology, and we understand that's driving extreme behavior with nonetheless fully recognized within ourselves. But The Entire History of You is the most uncomfortable I've felt watching the show so far. Written by Jesse Armstrong, the co-creator of Peep Show, who also wrote for The Thick of It, and scripted Chris Morris's brilliant satirical film, Four Lions, the episode centers around a piece of equipment that is horrifyingly easy to imagine catching on. A computerized grain implanted into your skull that records everything you see for instant playback and storage whenever you'd like. Playing it back is called redoing, and almost everyone in the country is doing it. On this show, the cast of characters include Toby Kebbell, which is Duratan in Warcraft. Love him. He plays Liam. Jodie Whittaker from Broadchurch. Great show. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it on Netflix. She plays Fionn. Tom Cullen from The Last Days of Mars plays Jonas. Rashawn Stone plays from 3 Days Out as Jeff. Jimmy Mystery from Blood Diamond plays Paul. And Amy Beth Hayes from Mr. Selfridge plays Lucy. And so we start on this episode, ladies, as an opening scene in the boardroom. And just kind of looks like a typical day at work. Stacy, can you kind of take us through this first part?
So we see that the interview is going okay. He's very nervous, and you know he's kind of stumbling over his words a little bit. But then you know he's going through and he kind of makes it through, and then it's like this round table of, I guess, all of the executives of this company. I think it's a law firm, and and he goes by and each person sort of gives like their, okay, well, thanks very much for your time. And then I believe, what did he say? We really hope to wish to see you again or something like that. Yeah. It was worded really weirdly. Yeah. And it was one of those things that you would have just blown over right past if you know, if it was in real time. Right. But he decides that in the cab ride home that he is going to replay with his little grain the entire interview, and he stops and he obsesses over what the guy said, because what the guy said was worded weirdly, and he's like, oh well, he doesn't like me, you know. He wishes, he hopes that I'm going to come back and that he'll hear from me again, you know. And so that was a little bit of a glimpse into what that obsession can look like, when you can replay your own life.
Right. And it's pretty interesting too. Like, you know, he just kind of pulls out this like key fob almost. He's just kind of like rewinding it back and forth, you know, over and over again. And you just kind of, it's just kind of you realize at that point, like, okay, this isn't a normal boardroom. This isn't a normal thing. I think at this point too, is this when his eyes flip? Is that when you see it is in the cab? I believe you do.
Yeah, it was in the cab when his...
And that's creepy. Yeah. And it's just like, it's almost like if you went blind, I want to say. Your eyes kind of like black out and white out a little bit, and it's almost like
fog
you're
over,
going blind. Yeah, they fog over, and it's just like replaying this whole like video, and it's creepy as shit. And and so it's like you start to wonder, where's this going? So we get into the next scene, Jackie, where Jonas, you're introduced to Jonas, Fionn, and Jeff surrounding the TV, and they're rewinding it and kind of going around the house and introducing each other. Can you kind of take us through what happens here? It's just kind of a normal kind of a day too.
Sure. Let me see if I can recall.
This is just right in the beginning. It's where where there's a dinner party.
Got it. Yeah, I'm just
okay.
But yeah, actually, it's a party. They're having a party, and obviously the girlfriend isn't expecting that her boyfriend is going to be coming back at that time. Mm-hmm. And you see him walk in, she's sort of shocked, and she's having the body language with the Jonas, I think his name is.
Correct.
The body language is very flirtatious, and and then her just sort of like reaction of like, oh, I didn't expect you. It's
almost like you wouldn't even catch it though. Like on a normal given day, you probably wouldn't catch it. It would be really quick, and you probably wouldn't think 2 seconds of it.
Okay, yeah. So why don't you go ahead then?
No, that's what I'm just saying.
Oh, I see.
Right.
I thought you meant, okay, my apologies.
No,
no, I thought that you were saying that I missed something that...
Oh, no, I was just adding to it.
But,
I love you, Jackie.
No, I know. Yes. So anyway, I thought that was... also one of the downfalls of the show is that they kind of had to move very quickly to this guy who seemed like a sort of a normal guy into someone who got crazy obsessed. But, if you think about what these people are going through with this recorded memory that's so vivid, I'm surprised not all of the characters are completely insane. Not completely.
Right? How do you not become obsessed? Because we immediately, that's what social media stalking is. That's that's human nature, is to obsess if we have access to an abundant amount of information, especially pertaining to our own lives.
Right. Or the people that are in our lives that are, this is his wife. So he's coming in on his wife, and he just kind of plants like a thought, I guess you could say. And then, we've all been in those types of relationships or something like that where we've had a thought planted and then we start to obsess. What do we do? And I'm not saying that every woman does this. I'm not even saying that I've done this, but I've known that there's women that look through phones and look through, Facebook pages and things like that. And men too. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, it happens. So it's like here you have an actual video record of things that have occurred. And that's where it's like kind of gets creepy for me. So I'm kind of like, okay. So Stacy, one of the guests, one of the guests at the table is Jonas, right? And he starts talking. Do you remember the conversation he has with everybody?
Yeah, it was a little bit uncomfortable for, I think, mostly the other guests. The wife was totally into it and thought that he was the funniest person on the face of the planet. And we'll find out why in a little bit. But for everyone else, it was a little bit uncomfortable because he was talking about his sexual exploits. Right. And he was talking about, the fact that he has a girlfriend, and he will replay memories of his old flings, what did he say? Hot beginnings of old relationships, and beat off to it instead of going to have sex with his girlfriend.
Right.
So he's completely anti-monogamous. He doesn't see the point in relationships, and he basically just wants to,
He's a philanderer, I would say. Yeah, he's just kind of like, playboy. He's a dick. He's not really that great of a guy or whatever. So at the table, what I found was really neat, and Jackie, if you can recall, there was a girl who, one of the girls didn't have this grain that was installed into her head. Yeah. And I found the conversation after that really intriguing.
Yeah, see, then that was the kind of things that just kept you wanting more from this show. Mm-hmm. I mean, this definitely could have been made into a full-length movie.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
You could see all the ramifications in society. She
Right.
basically had her device. I knew the word.
Grain.
Gouged.
Right.
Yeah, the grain.
Gouged out of her, and she decided she liked life so much better without those vivid memories that she wasn't going to have it replaced. She gets kind of in an argument with another woman, or another woman starts the argument saying, "But how dare you?" Because in a way, you can't trust memories, which
Right.
is kind of a known fact that as much as you think you remember something or recall something, the more your brain processes it and tries to recall an event, you lose a thread or a grain of it. I know for myself, I feel like there are some memories that like live so strong that I know everything about it, but you can't trust it. You can't trust memories, and that's been proven in court cases and
Right. Well, and they actually say the last memory that you have is the last memory of the last memory that you have. So you're actually remembering the memory. So you're not actually recalling it perfectly. So like with this episode of them saying that there's, this recording. I've always posed this question. I'm totally going off the script here, but I've always posed this question. How accurate is it to have a video recording of things? Because I feel that even out of context, when when they start getting in a fight later on or whatever.
Good point.
They start getting in a fight later on, and he says, sometimes you can be a bitch, okay? And then she rewinds it over and over again. You're a bitch. You're a bitch. You're a bitch. And not that it's great that he called her a bitch, but he said sometimes you can be a bitch. And so out of context, that just destroyed her. So it's like video and recordings and things like that aren't always the truth either. So it's a very interesting question to kind of pose as you're like kind of watching yourself, unfold through this, And
so it's also worth saying that there's a reason why humans do not have 100% recall. There's a reason, because our psyches can't handle it. And so we are not built mentally to be able to handle 100% of our memories, and which is why we become obsessed and we focus on one little tiny thing. We focus on the way that somebody looked at someone, or the one sentence that somebody said and the way that they phrased it, because we need to focus on something, and we're not computers. We can't just store information and not, draw lines and conclusions from it. Right. So it's just not healthy to have that much memory.
Yeah, I agree fully. So they decide to try to, bring Jonas home with them, and then they're in the cab and they're kind of arguing about it a little bit, and they kind of brush him off, and they go inside and they start having this little argument. And this is the part that I was coming up with, where he eventually calls her a bitch. But Stacy, you want to kind of walk us through that little part there?
Yeah, so we see, and this is where what you were talking about, Kari, that he says, well, it was your idea to his wife. Well, it was your idea to have him come back. So, or no, I'm sorry, reverse that. She was saying to him, it was your idea to have him come back. And so she plays a little bit of the video, and he did. He, in fact, said, why don't you come back to ours for a nightcap? We didn't see what happened before that, but that's what we go on. That's the information that we're going on so far. And so they're kind of, bantering back and forth. It wasn't really an argument yet. But they're kind of going back and forth, and they're like, well, I really don't want him to come by. He's kind of a dick, and it's fine. It's fine. He can come back if he wants, and then she goes, well, fine. You tell him that he can't, that he has to leave. So it's like the super awkward moment. He gets out. He's thinking that he's going to have a good time with a couple of friends, and then he goes, oh, well, look at the time. It's so late. And then he goes, yeah, is that new information?
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell it was really awkward.
Yeah, it was super awkward, and they're trying to get rid of him. And so, it was definitely a super awkward little departure. And then we get to the part where he kind of just goes off and on his merry way, and then they go inside, and then an argument breaks out.
Right. Right. And Jackie, do you remember what this argument is all about?
I think if I can recall,
We'll help you.
because my last viewing was quite a while ago. Probably because this episode was so disturbing. I don't know anybody who hasn't watched it who doesn't feel like they can connect to it in some way. But I think it had to do with the fact that he was putting two and two together, and he realized that this was the Marrakesh dude.
Yes.
That she had only known for a week. And it kind of he starts to realize it was more than just a week. Yes, and I, as far as where that fight goes at that point, I started my second viewing that from the point where he picks up a bottle of vodka and heads out to the guy's house to confront him. So,
right.
If I've missed a piece there that you want to cover in particular, go for it.
Well, there was this one little part. So I had jumped ahead, and I apologize, but I'll get back to it. This is where he basically calls her, sometimes you're a bitch. And then, she goes to bed, and he follows her up, and he kind of feels bad. And, you can see that, he's apologetic a little bit. And the next thing you see is him kind of making up and then just getting into this sexual experience that they have together. And you're sitting there watching it for a second. And then the creepiest fucking thing.
Yeah.
The creepiest fucking thing in the whole show is they're like having this great sex, and all of a sudden you see them literally like humping the air, lying next to each other.
Right.
I don't know if they were humping the air. I think they were actually having sex.
I don't think
the
they
most
were.
boring sex ever.
No,
Really?
it was like air humping. Yeah, it was like the weirdest shit ever.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely noticed that they are in that typical position that happens
Yeah.
to a lot of very old couples.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're just in bed. I'm going to lie here. You spin
Yeah.
me, and then we can just pass out.
Yeah.
And
Well,
there's
it was
no
just
real-
fucking creepy. Their eyes were like flipped back, and they got their
Their
fobs
eyes are
in their
flipped
hands.
back, and they're
So
just
sexy.
either humping or having the most boring sex ever.
Whatever it is. Yeah, I don't even
Yeah.
know. It's just
And,
horrible. And he literally like turns it off, and it's almost like she's a robot. She just goes, bleh, and she just dies. Like she's like, bleh, it's over. Like, well, that was fun. And I'm like, it's horrible. It just kind of creeped me out. So I mean, obviously they were reliving some type of sexual experience that they had, foreshadowing, of like, good times and things like that. But man, that was freaking crazy, So like you were saying, Jackie, this is when he starts, he kind of like gets up after this crazy fucking sex scene. He gets up, he grabs a bottle of alcohol, and he just starts drinking and watching this part at the reliving the evening and going over, and this is where the obsession starts. Now, like you were saying, Jackie, and I agree with you, is that there is a quick escalation here where it's like he goes from semi-okay to like nuts, So, and I think this is where he starts to kind of lose it. So, Stacy, what do you feel is happening here?
So first of all, he immediately realizes right after the sexual encounter, the humping / boring sex, that there's something missing here, and so he goes downstairs and he just tries to go over the night. And what's the way that they go over? They don't think about it. They replay it. They literally replay it in this world. And so he's replaying the entire night, and he is obsessing over all of these little moments. And then he's getting angrier, and he's getting drunker, and he is just turning into this madman. And you're just seeing this slow, him slowly digress into like this crazy character. And then by the time she wakes up in the morning, he is completely wasted. He hasn't slept all night. And he is awkwardly having the babysitter sit next to him to watch different moments of their night last night.
Right.
At one point, he makes her watch the part where he goes, "Let me save our kid from our pedophile babysitter," which was the most horrible joke. And
Right.
the babysitter looks at him like, "Thanks a lot."
Right.
Fucker." Like, and so, yeah, so that was super awkward. The wife takes the babysitter out and like says, "I'm really sorry," and like tries to apologize, comes back in, and he has this whole thing that he's been working out all night, and he has this whole argument set up, and he's gonna have her sit down, and
is
he's
an
gonna have her. What was that?
I'm sorry. I'm just saying that, yeah, he is an attorney, so he
Yeah, exactly. So
Oh,
he has
yeah.
this
Yeah.
he has this whole argument laid out, and so he's gonna play all these different moments, and she's gonna admit that she has feelings for this dude, which is kind of what happens. So he gets him, or he gets her to admit that that the relationship was longer than she had initially said.
Correct.
That Marrakesh was about. Is this the point where it was 6 months, right?
Yes.
She
Yep.
finally fesses up to the fact that it was 6 months, which is way different than a week or a month.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And then, she finally fesses up to the fact that, okay, so it was a relationship. Fine. I don't have feelings for him anymore. I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
We
let's
have
get
a
over it.
family together. This is not anything that you need to worry about. Well, of
Right.
course, he still worries about it. So she walks away, and he decides in his wisdom that he's going to get in the car. When he gets in the car, first thing that happens, by the way, I thought it was kind of interesting that they're all driving these vintage cars that are tacked up.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
That was
Yeah.
kind of cool.
I didn't even catch that. You're right.
Yeah, they're all driving like these vintage cars that all have like these tech upgrades. And so when he gets in the car, apparently his grain also tells his car that he's not in a safe condition to drive, and so he needs to override driving drunk.
Right.
And so he does.
That's kind of interesting that they even let you override that.
Right? Yeah.
Because there is the whole thing that we didn't talk about, but the TSA, or this is not the TSA, this is England. But him going through the airport. So there's,
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
To what I wanted to say about how,
Yeah.
I wanted to see what happens in legal cases. He's an attorney. Let's see a courtroom situation
Yeah.
where they can prove without a shadow of a doubt that someone did or did not do something.
Yeah, this could be a
what
whole
is the
TV
judicial
series,
system
this world.
like? Why do we even need attorneys when we've got this recording? There's all these questions which is what's so great about this idea and this concept. It opens it up to so many things. But I'm sorry, but yeah, I didn't.
No, I agree with you. It brings up my point of just saying like how out of context things can be, because they've used in court cases, they've used, recordings, and they've also used video, and they've had to throw them out because they were just either,
Right.
they weren't complete recordings, or the thing is it was biased, because a lot of times once and tell me if this isn't true, we're being recorded right now. Once you're aware of the fact that you're being recorded, you automatically are different.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like,
Oh, that opens up a whole nother element. of
right?
this.
You're welcome, Jackie. I know you'd like that. But it's absolutely true. Like, you just don't, not to say that this isn't as much of me as you're going to see, but it's, well, yeah, because I'm not getting naked, but this is who I am for this camera. But it's like, when you get off camera, things are a little bit different. You're not self-aware of the fact that, hi, I'm being recorded. Excuse me while I fix my hair. Excuse me while I stand up. Am I slouching? Things are different. So it's, to me, that's my dog. Hello, everybody. Say hello to Jake. It's one of those days today. Thanks, Jake. But it's just one of those things where, there's so many different aspects to video and recordings and things like that can actually just throw, a whole loop in the thing. So
Absolutely. And also imagine, so, we act different because we're only recorded a very little portion of our lives, and we're normally aware of it. there are times where we're recorded and we have no idea that we're being
how many
recorded.
podcasts you do.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too.
My whole life is a podcast. I go to sleep and record.
But it's not
I used to
24/7.
live stream myself sleeping.
Well, for Jackie, it might be close to 24/7, but
I'm not so much anymore.
but we're not going through our entire lives being recorded and knowing that every single thing that we do is being recorded. And I just wonder, like, how does that affect your, not just, because this particular episode focuses more on what is your reaction to having access to these memories?
Right.
A good point to bring up is what is the difference in your personality knowing that you're being recorded all the time? Do you eventually just get used to it and then you end up going back to
I don't know.
the way that, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You think about Watergate, you think about the presidents, and things like that. Do the presidents act the way that they are normally acting, or are they acting, air quotes, for the recordings at this point?
Yeah.
So you never know.
And there's been reality television shows that have put this to the test, and obviously the big one that would apply to the UK and all other countries is the show Big Brother. This is like they put people in a house for 3 months.
But you're aware.
But after about a month, they start to really kind of act more and more like themselves, less aware of the camera. So that's kind of, God, I can't believe I brought
Kind of reminds me of, like, what was that show starring Jim Carrey? It was a movie.
Oh, Truman.
The Truman Show.
Yep.
I mean, I feel that, honestly, unless it's something like that, it's really hard to be true to you and find out, everything else, because it's a good movie to kind of show, like, it's kind of similar. It's just, it's one of those things where that was also kind of had a scare factor to it too. Like, holy shit, you've been recorded all of your life,
And that's another point, again, that I wanted to see more of, is that since people have these recordings, are there laws now in place that require people to turn over their recordings? Because there's an e-discovery rule in the United States which requires all public agencies and not for-profit government to keep records in case of a certain legal situation. You're not allowed to destroy or dispose of any kind of recording, paper, electronic, or other form if you think there's something coming up. So this would definitely apply. If this were in the United States, you would not be allowed to delete. You would go to prison if you just deleted something if you thought that litigation was pending.
Right.
I mean, this is the same kind of thing. And so I want to see more. I want this to be turned into a movie. Someone, come on, Dan Trachtenberg, help us out here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, all right. So getting kind of back on track a little bit. So at this point, he gets in the car that Stacy was mentioning and stuff like that, and he forces his way over to Jonah's house and kind of basically, starts, fighting with him a little bit. They get into a little bit of a row, and he, basically at that point you see kind of like he breaks a bottle and like everything goes black, like, and all of a sudden he just kind of wakes up in the car. And Stacy, you want to talk about that point, because this is a very pivotal point, and I find that's probably my favorite part of the show.
Yeah. So he wakes up. We see that he has crashed his car into a tree, and so he wakes up and he gets out of the car, and the first thing that he does is he goes back and he re-watches what just happened. It's very early morning. It's like a dewy morning at this point. He's re-watching what just happened, and he sees the fact that he smashed, or I don't think he actually broke the bottle. I think he just bunted it up against Jonas's head at some point.
No, he broke it and held it to his neck is what he did. He broke the bottle and he kind of like held it to his neck.
Yeah. So he bunted it and then he broke it, and then he held it to his neck and he started threatening him. Right. And so he he says something, and then you see him, and at first what I thought was happening was that he was embarrassed by his actions, and so he just went and he walked home, and he was going to go confront his wife and say, listen, I did something really stupid and I'm sorry, and can we just, move on from here, and hopefully Jonas doesn't, press charges. What actually ends up happening is that he walks home, he walks into the house, and he goes into the bedroom, and first thing he says is about the painting that is above the bed. He said, "You really liked that painting, didn't you? I have always hated it. I thought it was a pretentious piece of shit." And he's like, and then she goes, she doesn't understand what's going on. And then he says, "Well, is our son mine?" And you don't know where he's going with this. And then all of a sudden he plays, and because when he was threatening Jonas, he said, "Delete every single thing that you have of my wife, pull them up right now on the big screen so that I can see them, and then delete everything. I want you to delete everything."
Right.
So you'll see while he does what he says, he pulls it up on the television, and he can see everything, and then he pauses it. And while everything is up there, he zooms in to one tiny little frame amongst all of the ones that Jonas has, and you can see she's naked in bed with the same painting above her head that is in their current bedroom.
Right.
So he knows that is Jonas's memory. His wife is in their bedroom having sex with Jonas. So now he knows for a fact that she cheated on him. And then it gets really disturbing.
Right. What happens then, Jackie? Do you remember? Do you recall at the end of this show?
Yeah. So basically, it comes out that, that she obviously did have sex with the guy, Jonah, during when they were having a tiny little argument or some kind of argument, and there was and he said it was only like 4 days, and she met up with the guy and had sex with him, and then he asks, "Did you wear a condom? And where did the condom come from?" And she makes him replay, but which we don't see, but she replays the encounter,
And she tried to delete it too, right before that. Yeah. She tried
it was very bordering on abusive marital interaction.
Yeah, it was odd.
Absolutely.
Very odd.
Because I had a situation once that I was in where my privacy was definitely invaded. My boyfriend was able to ping our router and watch all of my chat conversations with people when I do I used to do some videos with people on YouTube back in like 2009, 2008, in the heyday or whatever. And then he got really worried, really concerned, so he was watching everything that I did, and he didn't tell me for like 4 or 5 months. But that really put a little kink in our relationship.
That might do it.
Yeah. So we took time off. We're good now. We might actually end up getting married pretty soon. But it's like, if it wasn't for the technology, if we didn't have that technology, he would have to let it go. He would have to trust me and take my word for it. And like that, I often think about old movies and old songs about how when you break up with someone, you never see them again, or you never hear from them. I wonder where you are. But that's what's so great about the Black Mirror, is it's really touching these points about technology that affect us today. That she can't wipe the information in time. She has to show them. If you want to come clean, you hand over your cell phone to your partner and you say, "Go in, look, and see. I haven't sent text messages." It's very disturbing. I think that's why it really makes all of us uncomfortable.
I agree.
But so basically she sees that, and then I guess we move into the point, but stop me if I'm moving too far, that he is now kind of left alone to kind of relive it live memories
Exactly where we are, yeah.
of her in the house smiling and the baby in the house, and then now they're gone. And and if it weren't for the technology, this never would have happened.
Yeah. And it's so sad because you can see that it's probably been a few days since she's been there, because he's living like a bachelor and the house is a mess. And so, and every corner of the house that he looks in, when he's standing in the bathroom, he sees, a memory of her standing behind him picking out a dress. When he's in the living room, he sees her laying on the couch giving him a sweet little smile. When they open up and they do the flashbacks, he sees his son in the crib saying "Dada." So it's all these really great memories that he just has in his head. These aren't grain memories. These are just his memories.
Right.
And so he lost track of his own memories in place of these recorded grain memories. And now he's starting to realize, oh my God, I've had it so good and I just royally fucked it up. And so then we get to the part of so he's standing in the bathroom and he just had this memory, this organic memory of when she walked into the bathroom and they were picking up what she was going to wear, and then she kind of goes over and leans on his shoulder and like gives him a little kiss, and then at that point he decides that having the grain isn't worth it, and he literally takes a razor from the counter and starts carving into his own neck. And taking little tweezers or whatever and pulling out this embedded grain that's
he was just done.
That he needed to really want to do that, because that takes some determination.
Well, I think human nature, when it comes down to things, it's like you were saying, like, we can't remember everything because we can't handle it. And a lot of times is once you've processed something, whether it's a good memory or a bad memory, your brain wants to move on. It needs to move forward so it can make room for new memories and new experiences and things like that. So a lot of times, like, I've always been one person that says, don't live in the past. I mean, I've had a crazy past and and I'm sure a lot of people have, but I don't live back there, because I think if I did, I would be sad a lot. Yeah. So it's like you just kind of move forward. So, I mean, him taking the grain out, I relate to. I would not want that in there. I mean, if it's a choice... No, absolutely
one of my
not.
favorite movies of all time is Endless Sunshine on the Spotless Mind, I believe it is.
It's so good with Jim Carrey. And
I dreamt of being able to erase like my romantic past by having my lobotomy or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
I even read a Carrie Fisher book, Wishful Drinking, and she had shock therapy to erase memories.
Oh God,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. It's
Jesus.
an excellent book. But anyways, that's definitely something like living in the past. Just is sometimes, even the fond, wonderful memories sometimes can be painful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big proponent in, I've had shitty things happen to me in my past, and it made me who I am. I wouldn't be the me that's sitting here if it weren't for having gone through all of those things.
Right.
Do I want to relive them every single day, every moment of every day? Hell no.
No, you don't. No,
you move on, but you take your personality, the sum total of who you are, and you move on.
Right.
So it's important that those things happened. It's important that you have those memories, but you don't need to live with them and next to them and in them every single day.
And this show definitely shows what happens when you do that. There's that obsession. So, Stacy, what are your final thoughts on the show for today?
I found it really depressing, and so it was. I think that having memories, having a reference, and like they said, your memories aren't 100% accurate, but I don't necessarily think that they have to be. I think that your interpretation of your memories pretty much for the most part are good enough, and that's what that's what your brain was designed to handle. And so I have a nice memory of when I was probably 2 or 3 years old of spinning around in a circle in my sundress and then putting my nose up against my dad's record player as the Beatles were playing. I have no idea whether that memory is actually what happened or whether I just made it up.
Right.
But that's a nice memory, and I have that memory.
Keep it. Right.
Yeah.
Keep it.
I don't want a recorded memory.
Right.
I don't want, to have, because I want to have those nice nostalgic fuzzy memories. That's part of who I am. So yeah, so I think that, humans were not designed to have 100% recall.
Gotcha. And how about you, Jackie? How do you feel about today's? You have anything to conclude or add?
Not a whole lot that I haven't already said, but I definitely think this is probably by far one of my favorite episodes of the Black Mirror. And this is where I'm hooked, where I want more. And then I had to wait for the next season, which took forever.
It did.
And I believe this one, combined with the White Christmas, I can't wait till we talk about White Christmas. Definitely, I don't know what it is, but I think I enjoy it because it just it hits so close to home, and I've had both the positive parts of this and the negative parts of these elements of the show hit my life in a big way, and so to see kind of this somebody else have it worse. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about it that makes me enjoy it so much. I'm not usually a glutton for pain, although I fall into it. But I'm the person who puts socks on her hands and tries to make puppets to be happy. So I don't understand why I like it. What about you, Kari?
I felt that it was pretty, brutally depressing, and it was often uncomfortable to watch, but I felt that it was really acted well. The story was simple enough and well told, but it makes some logical leaps and bounds that I never was really totally on board with. So Liam's paranoia kind of escalates pretty rapidly and dangerously, and his sudden propensity to kind of like swill scotch from a glass to resort to, brutal violence doesn't really kind of jive with the character we kind of were introduced to in the beginning. So things move quickly enough, but they have to kind of move quickly in this story. But it's really creepy. It's an up-to-date parable that still tells a tale as old as time, and it builds to a climax that the audience may well have predicted, but we are smartly spared from seeing. So every time a character plays back something on their grain, their eyes glow dully as the images are accessed, giving them a demonic look. So overall, I feel that the entire history of you is pretty outstanding. So it was a good episode. Next time on BMR, we are going to review Be Right Back. It will be season 2, episode 1, and another great show. Yeah. Stacy will be in charge of those episodes, and we should have a lot of fun doing that. So today, that's all we have right now for Jackie, Stacy, and myself. Thank you so much for joining us. Jackie, how can people get a hold of you nowadays?
They can always find me at go to JackieHearn.com. I'm doing some kind of interesting things in the very next week. But I also want to point out very quickly, if I can, that we did get some feedback, and you can email us too. Email us at bmrpod@gmail.com. And I want to read one real quick that I forgot last time.
Sure.
But it's from Kent, and he said, Jackie, Stacy, Kari, great show, ladies. I love Black Mirror and was excited when Jackie mentioned doing the three of you do a fantastic job discussing the relevant points. It reminded me of much of the conversations I had after seeing the show. Jackie, thank you for your courage and honesty when you bluntly stated that you would fuck a pig. Pigfuck? PFF,
Pig Fucking Friday.
That revelation was almost as shocking as the show itself. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. No, but seriously, thank you for your feedback, and please send
Thank you.
But I'm Jackie Hearn or JackieHearn.com. What about you, Stacy? What have you been up to these days?
So I'm still at Stacy B23, and then I also on Twitter, and then also I recently built myself a website. So it's going to be stacybaldwin.com. So that's STACYBALDWIN.com. And so all of the Black Mirror episodes are on there, as well as all of my guest appearances that I've done so far. And there's a little bio about me. And it's it's very narcissistic, and I'm happy about it.
Oh, and you must think I'm insane, so.
So I'm very excited that I have my own little website, and then I actually have something for a website to be about. So that's cool. Kari, where can people find you?
Oh, geez, all over the place. I'm actually working on 2 more shows because I don't have anything in my wheelhouse, but I'm really
Someone who has more shows than me.
I'm really excited about Feast on History is going to be released in July, and we've been doing a ton of writing and a ton of interviewing, so I'm so excited to finally get this one off the ground. It's my baby, so you guys need to be nice, but that one's going to be great. I also am doing sketching comedy with Phil Rude is coming up soon. It's going to be a half-hour show, and it's about story time with a comedian and a sketch artist. So that's basically what we're going to be doing there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But you can always catch me in all these crazy shows that I'm doing at blazingcaribou.com, or you can reach me on Twitter and Facebook at Blinken Park, and it's BLINK3N Park. Or hit us up on our Patreon at blazingcaribou.com/Patreon.
Excellent.
Awesome.
And by the way, a quick shout out to Sergeant Muffin for trying to get us fixed for Diamond Club TV. He's got a Patreon too that gets us on Diamond Club TV. And also we're on Alpha Geek Radio.
Oh, yes.
Don't forget Alpha Geek Radio's Patreon, as well as T2T2 who does our chat room. If you're as depressed and kind of knocked off your I don't know. Now I'm sounding like an idiot. I was going to say knocked off your rocker. If you're floored, if you're
Angry,
devastated,
angry, yeah,
angry as I am, there is a LGBT newspaper in Orlando, and it's called Watermark Online. I'll bring this up real quick. I didn't have it on the fly, but they definitely go to watermark.online.com, and you can see right here. There's a how to help. And this is constantly updated in ways to get groceries to people. Helping these people and these families of the victims out. There's still a whole lot, and not only that, legal issues, which is a great point. And that's why I love this, because my friend who is an editor of this paper, when his husband died, he was left. He had to move out of his house. He lost his house because the house was in his name, and his family took over it because they didn't legally recognize his marriage at the time. So there's things like that these people are going through that, most of the world don't even have to understand. So you can go and help out by going to watermarkonline.com. So, I know there's a lot of GoFundMes out there, but this is where you can do things even if you can't throw in a few pennies.
Agreed. Well, thank you from our house to yours, and we will definitely all see you here on Black Mirror Reflections next week. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Did you know you can listen to the recording of this podcast live as it happens? Visit tunein.alphageekradio.com to learn how.
You've been listening to a Blazing Caribou Studios production in conjunction with Diamond Club. If you like this podcast and want to hear more of this, consider supporting the BCS Patreon at blazingcariboustudios.com. A special thanks to Pinto and the Bean for our company theme music. If you want to hear more, head on over to pintoandthebeanmusic.com, where you can check out this and other cool tracks.
To say